On the news, Senate confirms appointments of Minister of Power and Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. Plus, Yobe State House of Assembly and partners move to tackle drug abuse in the state. Good evening and welcome to Parliament News. I'm Deborah Olumayowa. Now the news in detail. Senate has confirmed the appointment of Joseph Olasukomi Tebe as Minister of Power as he raises the hope of Nigerians that the end of system disturbance of grid collapse is in sight. The confirmation screening dwelt on how to fix the existing gaps in the value chain for stable and sustainable supply to power Nigeria's economy. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that Ambassador Shola Enikonlaye, the Minister of State Foreign Affairs nominee, was also confirmed.
Inadequate electricity supply is the single largest infrastructure bottleneck in Nigeria and a major constraint to economic growth. As the screening of Tigbe, the president's ministerial nominee for power, lawmakers were specific as they asked how the new minister intends to turn around the industry to achieve stable and sustainable supply of electricity.
Please go out there and solve this problem so that we can bring the needed development to our nation.
What kind of timelines that you want to put behind these deliverables?
Make sure that those who are doing distribution actually keep to the terms of their contract.
What solution are you going to bring in order to nip in the bud this issue of vandalization of power infrastructure?
A solution where people take responsibility from generation to transmission to distribution. We're open to all ideas. In fact, one thing I'll commit to today is that we are not going to do the things the way we've been doing before.
Also screened in the Red Chamber is a career diplomat, Ambassador Shola Enikonlaye, as he takes the seat of Minister of State for Foreign Affairs on the heels of disturbing reports on the state of some diaspora Nigerians in some countries.
What would you do different in ensuring that the Nigerian passport is respected and Nigerians are treated with dignity in foreign countries?
Place Nigeria and Nigerians at the centerpiece of our foreign policy. And I think that is something many of us have argued over the years.
Diplomacy is about signaling. Sometimes body language and the way you project what you're about to do also matters. I believe the time has come for us to change our approach in relating to this country. And in this, I will propose two steps. Apart from our engagement at the bilateral level, we need to escalate this to the AU.
Ambassador Enikonlaye is definitely a round peg in a round hole.
Both nominees were confirmed and urged to make impact in their areas of assignments.
Congratulations to the nominees and their families. They will live here knowing very well that Nigeria is still work in progress. I thank you all.
A mild drama ensued earlier at plenary when Senator Adams Oshomole made efforts to raise an observation during the adoption of votes and proceedings, but he was ruled out of order. Senate had on Tuesday made amendments to its standing orders, part of which provides that only a senator that has served back-to-back twice in the Red Chamber could contest the position of presiding officer. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
The House of Representatives has passed key amendment bills on the Electoral Act and the Nigerian Police Trust Fund as they scaled third reading. It passed the 2026 budget of the Federal Capital Territory and its area councils. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports that the House reconsidered and passed the National Identity Management Commission Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2026.
Passed.
The report on the Electoral Act amendment bills for the provision of jurisdiction for pre-election matters to provide technology-driven modes for service of election petition and the Nigerian Police Trust Fund Repeal and Reenactment Bill, having been considered and approved at previous sittings, have now been read a third time.
A bill for an act to amend Electoral Act 2026 to provide for the jurisdiction of pre-election matters and for related matters. Third reading. A bill for an act to amend the Electoral Act 2026 to provide for the flexible, reliable, and technology-driven mode for service of election petition process and for related matters. Third reading.
Read the third time and passed.
The House passed 2.2 trillion naira 2026 budget of the Federal Capital Territory and its area council as the report on the Niger Delta Development Commission on the 2026 budget of the NDDC of 1.7 trillion naira was approved.
1,741 billion is for capital project.
1,750 billion for Niger Delta Development Commission.
Representative Bukar Tarba raised concern over the need to resettle about 10,000 internally displaced persons of Marte taking refuge in Mongono local government area of Borno State.
The Northeast Development Commission and Northeast Development Commission, and to provide them with 10,000 tents for the returning IDPs, and also empower women and youth returning to Marte local government.
Defections continued on the floor, with Omar Ajilo moving from PDP to ADC, Mohammed El Rufai, APC to ADC, Suleiman Richifa, PDP to ADC, Abdul Hakim Kamilu Ado, ADC to NDC, Joshua Obika, APC to NDC, and Esosa Iyawe from APC to NDC. The House has adjourned to Tuesday, 2nd of June, 2026, for party primaries. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
What happens when there are not enough lawmakers in the chamber to pass a bill? In the Nigerian National Assembly, the answer lies in the rules of quorum. In this report, Isa Mohammed takes a look at how quorum works, the challenges it poses during recess and election season, and how emergency legislative action fills the gap.
According to Section 54 and 96 of the 99 Constitution as amended, a quorum in both Senate and House of Representatives requires 1/3 of all members to be present for business to proceed. That means at least 37 senators out of 109 and 120 representatives out of 360 must be in the chamber before debates, votes, and resolutions hold. On paper, the rule is simple. In practice, it is a recurring test, especially during recess periods and election campaigns. During recess, lawmakers return to their constituencies, committees' work continue, but plenary sittings often stall because the 1/3 threshold could not be made. The same applies during intense electionary periods when members prioritize campaigns over legislative duties.
For now, and at all times, the quorum is 1/3 of all the members. It does not matter whether you are going on campaign. It doesn't matter whether you are being recalled from recess. It doesn't matter at all whatever the excuse or the submission is. Whether you are going on campaign, if you want to sit in the house, if the house is going to sit, all of you, there must be at least 1/3 of the members of either the Senate or the House of Representatives. The same applies when they're sitting in joint sessions.
The challenge seems to be more than procedural. It affects Nigerians' budget cycle, emergency interventions, and public welfare bills, among other important national issues. In recent years, critical matters like supplementary budgets, loan approvals, and security resolutions have been delayed due to low attendance. To manage this, the leadership relies on emergency legislative action. In these situations, the Senate President or Speaker can reconvene the chamber during recess in line with Section 11(4) and Section 88(1) of the Constitution if there is matter of national urgency. In some instances, the National Assembly also used visual sittings and gazetted executive communications to keep business moving without a full plenary.
They are reconvening as House of Representatives of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or House of Assembly of the particular state, and they are reconvening under the Constitution. Let me take the liberty to read Section 54 of the Constitution. It says, The quorum of the Senate or of the House of Representatives shall be 1/3 of all the members of the Legislative House concerned. 1A, that is the latest amendment. For the purpose of the inaugural and first sitting of the Senate or of the House of Representatives, the quorum shall be at least 2/3 of all the members elect of either the Senate or of the House of Representatives. This is the amendment that was triggered by the quorum factor that arose during the election of Senator Bukola Saraki as President of the Senate of the 8th Senate when the 8th Senate was inaugurated under President Muhammadu Buhari.
At the moment, the Assembly balances constitutional procedure with political reality, but experts argue that stricter attendance rules, sanctions for absenteeism, and better rescheduling during election years are needed to protect legislative business. In Abuja, Issa Muhammad, NTA News.
To discuss more on the requirements, procedures, and challenges of forming quorum in the National and State Assemblies, our correspondent earlier engaged a former member of the House of Representatives, Uzo Azubike. Welcome to NTA Parliament News. How does quorum works in the legislative arm?
The issue of quorum for the sitting of the Legislative House is a constitutional matter. The Constitution requires that for a Legislative House to sit, whether it is State House of Assembly, the National Assembly, that is, the House of Representatives or the Senate, at least 1/3 of the members must be present to form a quorum. The Constitution has provided different quorum thresholds for different situations. For instance, in constitutional alteration and a few other things, where 2/3, or in some cases, 4/5 may be required. So having 2/3 cannot empower the legislature. Yes, the House is properly constituted, but they will not be able to take those decisions because the Constitution has required a certain number of members to take such decision. So that is the issue of quorum generally.
What do you think are the challenges it poses during recess and election season?
During election season, it is expected that the work of legislation, governance, continues. So what normally happens is that the House can go on a recess to enable their members participate in certain processes in their respective constituencies. In the event of an emergency, an urgency requiring the sitting of the House, whether it is on a Saturday or on a Sunday, whether it is on a public holiday or not, the presiding officer convenes the House or reconvenes the House, issuing proper notices, doing advertorials, and using the channels of communication of the Legislative House. So, if after all that they do not meet the requirement of that 1/3, the House cannot sit. And if it is for an issue, for instance, in those days of declaration of a state of emergency in Borno State or so, and the House was on recess, and the House was convened. If you have even 50% of the members of that is more than 1/3, there may not be enough to approve the order already issued by the president because it required the support of 2/3 of the members. So you have such situations. So during emergency or no emergency, for a House to be able to start any business in the day, it must have that minimum number of members present and attending. Out of caution, a House may not be competent to do all businesses with 1/3. Because if you look at the Constitution again, you see that 2/3 of the members of the House can requisition a sitting of the House like any other meeting. Members outside the presiding officer can always convene. 2/3 of members can come together and meet and say, no, we want to sit in now, though they're on vacation. And once that happens, the presiding officer is duty-bound to convene the House. Where he fails, those members can convene the House on their own and appoint a temporary presiding officer. If it's in the legislature, in the House of Assembly, or House of Representatives, the Speaker pro tempore. Because they have the highest number required to take the hardest decision.
How could emergency legislative action fill the gap?
Quorum below to 1/3, there is no provision for that. There's no provision, there is no circumstance under which a legislative house can do the business of the day with a number below the quorum, that is below 1/3. There is no such circumstance. But there are certain circumstances under the House can bend the rules. And to do so too, they need that majority. They need the 2/3 majority to take such, the list in some circles could be simple majority of the total number of members of that House. Because the House regulates itself. So they can suspend their rules. For instance, we had provisions in the House of Representatives rules then on number of matters of urgent public importance that could be taken in a day. Circumstances may warrant that more of such motions be taken. What the Speaker does is to suspend the rules and get the approval of the House. And once the I agree that the rules be suspended, they now proceed without a cost to that provision of the rule. So that is the most you can do in such emergency situations where you feel that, yes, certain motions may be required to be on notice. May be required to be on notice. Exigencies may warrant that section of the rule be suspended. That can also only be done with the approval of the members that are present where quorum has been formed. So, but they can now tinker with their rules and suspend that aspect that required the motion to be on notice, and with the leave of the House, it can now be moved extempore. So these are the actions, some of the actions that the Legislative House can take during emergencies.
Thank you for your time, sir. We're going on a short break, and when we come back, the news continue with state assemblies. Thank you for staying tuned.
From the 36 states of Nigeria to the legislative chambers where laws are made, laws that shape healthy living, developmental strides, and challenges. Do you know that your future begins and lies with your state legislature? Stay informed, stay educated, stay connected, and stay empowered. It is a weekly affair where we keep you abreast with legislative stories that matter. From the state assemblies, only on NTA Parliament. Join us via DSTV, GoTV, StarTimes, and free-to-air platforms. NTA Parliament, strengthening Nigeria's democracy.
Welcome back. The ECOWAS Parliament sitting in Abuja has expressed concern over reports on killing of West African citizens in the Sahel and recent xenophobic attacks of some Nigerians in South Africa. This is coming in a motion of urgent public importance raised by the third Deputy Speaker of the Parliament, Alexander Efenyo Markin. ECOWAS Parliament correspondent Mohammed Rabiu Ali reports.
The third Speaker, who was guided by Rule 71 of the procedure of the Parliament, which provides for personal statement of public interest, brought the issue of xenophobic attacks in South Africa.
Ghanaians, Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Ethiopians, and other African nationals have been attacked, looted, displaced, and killed. The Nigerian consulate in Johannesburg has confirmed the death of 2 citizens.
The Parliament demands accountability and protection, as well as ECOWAS civilian protection frameworks that will cover business operators from other countries. In another development, 3 member states of Ghana, the Gambia, and Cote d'Ivoire presented their reports before the Parliament focusing on political situation, access to justice, good governance, and rule of law, among others.
The agricultural productivity in the Gambia is worsened by climate-related shocks that damage crops and land. They pose on a serious threat to livelihood. Agriculture contributes approximately 25% of the country's GDP.
Ghana faces a growing security challenge linked to the spillover of jihadist insurgency from the Sahel, particularly from Burkina Faso. Reports indicate that militant groups have used part of northern Ghana for logistic support in connection with Sahel-based insurgencies.
The session was adjourned to next legislative day. Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
Moving on, in Yobe State, stakeholders including law enforcement agencies, government institutions and civil society organizations are strengthening collaboration towards developing a comprehensive approach to tackling the menace of drug abuse in the state. The stakeholders made their submissions during a one-day public hearing organized by Joint House Committee on Health and Primary Health Care on a bill seeking to establish the Yobe State Agency for Drug Abuse, Control and Rehabilitation. Assembly correspondent Babagana Kolo reports.
Concerned by the rising cases of substance abuse in the society, the Joint Committee on Health and Primary Health Care of the Yobe State House Assembly convened this one-day high-level public hearing. The hearing focuses on a bill seeking to establish the Yobe State Agency for Drug Abuse Control and Rehabilitation, YOSADAC.
When my word was transferred in this very important gathering, it demonstrates the fact that we have gathered a lot of inputs from various individuals, organizations that is going to strengthen the proposed bill at our disposal.
Speaker Yobe State House Assembly represented urged stakeholders to provide valuable inputs to ensure the proposed agency effectively addresses the specific needs of the people of the state.
As lawmakers, we recognize that legislation alone cannot stop this problem of drug abuse. It requires coordinated efforts involving families, communities, security agencies, educational institutions, traditional and religious bodies.
The hearing brought together lawmakers, health officials, religious leaders, security agencies, and other relevant stakeholders to deliberate on and strengthen the legal framework of the bill.
The bill is timely. It is very important because, especially at this critical moment, drug abuse is increasing and it is jeopardizing the interest and sanity of the next generation. And because of this, there is need for all stakeholders to contribute towards the effort of controlling, preventing, and rehabilitating the victims of drug abuse.
At the end of the engagement, the Joint Committee is expected to review the submissions and recommendations from the public hearing before presenting its report to the House for further legislative action. In Damaturu, I am Babagana Kulu, NTA News.
Lagos State residents will soon have a sigh of relief from multiple taxation accruing from federal, state and local governments. Speaker, Lagos House of Assembly, Right Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, disclosed this after a bill for a law to establish Lagos State harmonized taxes and levies approved list for collection scaled the second reading at a plenary in Lagos. Musa Toliat completes the report.
The Nigeria Tax Act 2025, which came into effect on January 1, 2026, seeks to modernize the tax system. States have also been encouraged to domesticate the Tax Act to inspire compliance in respective subnationals in the country.
To read for the second time, a bill for a law to enact the Lagos State harmonized taxes and levies.
With the bill on Lagos State harmonized taxes and levies scaling the second reading, the task of dissecting the bill with a view to getting support of other legislators rests squarely on the shoulders of the Chairman Committee on Finance, Honorable Femi Said.
The Act introduced sweeping reforms such as consolidation of various federal status, standardization of tax procedure, strengthening enforcement and compliance mechanism, and harmonization of subnational, state, and local revenue system with federal rules.
The bill was now open to debate from other lawmakers, Honorable Tomo Abiodun, representing Ekpe Constituency 1, described the bill as a critical reform that will eliminate the challenge of multiple taxation in Lagos State.
Where state will tax you and the local government will come back to tax you. So people and citizens were complaining. And it allowed the state government and the local government to sit down and determine the tax collectible by the local government and those collected that could be collected by the state.
We need to do a lot of advocacy to let the public understand the importance and the essence of this law.
On the opponents of the bill, Honorable Bola Oyishao noted that the bill would abolish cash-based tax collection, thereby enhancing transparency and accountability.
There's need to codify these taxes because I saw in the schedule here provided the names of taxes are just mentioned. The amount of the taxes are not mentioned. And this House of Assembly is the one started with the responsibility of determining those numbers so that the arbitrary or uncodified amount of taxes that will be collected should be considered when we are putting this law in place.
Section 7 talks about the offences. And if you look at the schedule attached to this bill, especially with daily ticketing, I want to believe that there should be more explanation, especially when it comes to the major function of the local government, which is being exercised currently by the unions, the NURTW, the Ratians, and the like, in terms of daily ticketing collection, so that they don't fall foul of the offence or of the fine that is contained in Section 9 of the bill.
Speaker, Right Honorable Mudashiru Abasa, who presided over the plenary, reiterated that the bill is in the interest of Lagosians as it promotes a fair and equitable tax system anchored on the principle of progressive taxation.
All of us representing each constituency must go back home to educate our people. We have to be on the same page. Lagos State harmonized taxes and levies and privileges for list for collection by 2025 is now committed to ask committee on finance to do public hearing and come back with the report in 2 weeks.
New appointments subsequently announced by the Speaker, Obasa, indicated that the House of Assembly now has a new clerk.
Pursuant to Section 9, subsection 2, paragraph 9 of Lagos State House of Assembly Service Commission Law 2021, this House hereby removes Mr. Biliamino Olabeleko as clerk of Assembly based on expiration of tenure and appoint Mrs. Adenike Oshinowo as new clerk of the House of Assembly. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it.
Appointments into Lagos State House of Assembly Service Commission, LAHASCOM, was also announced before the House adjourned Synod. In Lagos, Musa Toliat, NTA News.
With a story from Lagos, we conclude Parliament News. You can watch us on the social media platforms showing on your screen. On behalf of the production crew, I'm Deborah Ulumayawa. Thank you for watching.